Good evening. Hello. I was just readjusting a light and it something moved, but we're gonna say that that was me and not a ghost. If it was a ghost, you're welcome to be here in the presence. It's all good. Hi everybody. I thought I would take the opportunity to say hello, little updates. I was doing some writing, which is not latent, but it's sort of off and on again as we get absorbed. I get absorbed in projects. They kind of take the forefront as deadlines loom. Whether it was the concert I had, I spoke of, or the reading I had before that, and I actually wanted to talk about the reading I did, but also just to say that I feel like I spend a lot of time these days talking to people about the industry, particularly people out of the theater industry who are excited and interested in what's happening with Broadway, what's going on. And there are times where it's all good and that's wonderful, but it's also feels a little whack-a-mole still. Like, you hit the whack-a-moles. You know what I'm talking about. I'll find my words eventually. That's why I write them down. I'm better processing things when I'm writing down, sometimes verbally processing, but as my mother would say to me, complete a sentence, Micah. So I'll try. So I just wanted to address, because I keep coming to the Patreon community, and I'm so grateful to everyone there and the continued support. But that it's a strange time. It's still very strange. What is it? The first weekend of April. And I'm now teaching at AMDA, the American Musical Dramatic Academy, which is a long-standing school in New York City. I think they have a 4-year program, but they started as a 2-year, somewhat accredited program, offering students the opportunity to work and live in New York. And we get a lot of foreign students, which is cool. I have been a teacher there, a music director there over the past, off and on, throughout the 10, 12, 14 years. If I'm not working out of town or I'm not on a show that's taking all my energy and time, I'll go teach, like they have a 4-week or 5-week program. What they do is they do their showcase. So every school, if you're probably familiar, every performing arts school has a showcase. And within that showcase, they will, everyone gets a song or a duet or a group number, and we take the showcase to New York City. So if your school's in Ohio or Florida or the West Coast, typically, traditionally, you come to New York, they'll rent a theater, they'll rent a space, like a cabaret venue or just a small black box theater or rehearsal venue, and invite agents, casting directors, people like that. Which kind of pertains to why I thought I would make a little video to everyone about what's going on with me and also check in with all of you. I did a reading a couple weeks ago, and the writers, the creative team of that show, asked for my input after the fact, a little post-mortem. And I've learned over the years, in my wealth of experience, as it were, that I become more and more reticent to speak and more available to listen. And I think that just comes with age and hopefully that experience and hopefully a little wisdom. But also, the type of person or the type of people that come to you and say, "Oh, I'm so available. Anything you want to say, I'm so open. I'm so ready. And you go, the lady protests too much, methinks. Why the barrage of openness instead of just truly being available? And that sometimes happens, and I sometimes think, I don't know if they really want to know what I have to say. But I'll say this. I had a lovely conversation with the creative team, and really the show we did went very, very well. There was a lot of challenges along the way. But I was asked about the content. I was asked about the process, which I spoke to the communication, and we cannot underestimate the value of good email etiquette and good communication, because when you're working with a new creative team, and I think for some of us, like myself, I go into a new job, and sometimes it's new people every time. Unless I've been on Mamma Mia for 8 years, where I knew people there, and I was a substitute, but I was there for almost 8 years off and on. I'd come in, they knew who I was. If you have a job that has lasted more than 6 weeks, as most of mine do, 4 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week, I don't want to say it's a marriage of convenience, but I have to walk in, be cool, be professional, meet all these new people, collaborate with them, work very intimately, be very vulnerable, be very open and creative, and we're all exotic birds in this jungle trying to work together, as it were, and that can be extremely challenging because we all have strong personalities. And oftentimes I find myself as a music director being the glue between a director and choreographer, or an actor and the director, or the producer. And when I say that it's not a self-grandiose, it kind of sounds that way, it's because music directors often are there in support. We are accompanists. I'm literally accompanying the actors. And so whatever mishaps that happen, whatever breaths and things that don't go correctly or the way we rehearsed them, I have to smooth all that out and just jump. If the actor jumps a line, I jump with them. If someone forgets something, I move with them, and that's cool. That's how we make it work. So the creative team asked me for input, both on the just the functionality of the process we had, and I spoke to the fact that, you know, some people were better at communicating than others. And when you're new to a team and you're new like I am, as I said to this one creative member, I said, and this is not, again, not to be braggadocious, but I cannot count the number of readings I've done in New York. I've done many of them, as many of us have, and you just do a reading and it's a week or a week and a half or 5 days or 3 days or a concert. You do it and you move on. You do it and move on. You don't have the luxury of a lot of time. But that repetition of different experiences, working with so many different people every single time, has taught me how to pivot, how to turn, how to be quick in understanding what's going on, hopefully understand what's going on. And then also recognize the red flags. And in this case, there was a lot of that with communication. But that's not really why I thought to speak to you today. I'm sitting here, I'm working on a new song. See, I've got all these, this is sort of how I function. It's oftentimes what I do is I'll jot down whatever the moment is, whatever the text, if this is from a chapter in a book that I read, and it's quite, the book is fantastic, and I will actually leave you hanging on that because I don't want to get too much into the weeds about what that is yet, except to say this is sort of my process. And what I do, I start writing page after page. Sometimes I'll leave the side blank, and I'll sort of start I put things in little boxes about, oh, I like, that's a cool phrase. Can we rhyme that? Can we set that up in a rhyme scheme, scan it, make it rhythmically, melodically work in a melody? I don't always know if this is the best way to do it, but that's how I do it. And the team asked me for input on their show. And my own personal feelings about the material they have is sort of secondary to the technique and abilities in writing that, from writer to writer, from creative person to creative person, we can talk about. We don't have to agree on aesthetic, but the technical abilities of your technical prowess, your abilities to be well spoken, whether it's let's think of it like grammatical phrasing. See, it's 8 o'clock at night on Sunday night. I'm a little tired. To that end, I mentioned to this creative team, I brought up a couple anecdotes that I want to share with you now, that I think I'm just passing them along as the oral tradition that is oftentimes in theater. And I'll give you a couple quick ones. One is, when you're writing a lyric, Broadway musical theater is so specific. It's not opera. There's no da capo aria. We don't go back and sing it with more, melismas and flourishes. They might riff. There might be riffing. But the goal in Broadway musical theater, arguably, is for us to understand it the first time. Now, we can say, wow, that was good. I want to hear that again. Wow, that was amazing. But you have to understand it the first time. So the image that I got from maybe Jerry Herman, I want to say Jerry Herman. I'm giving him credit where credit may be due. Or Frank Lesser. The two of them were talking about this in an interview. And imagine you're in your car, 10 and 2. You're in your car and you're driving down a country road. And on that road, there is a train crossing. So the arm comes down, ding, 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 ding. The arm comes down and you're sitting in your car. And as the train goes by, it was Frank Lesser. As the train goes by, every train car is a lyric. you know. So if you're doing the people all said sit down, you're rocking the boat, simple song, you know, or Adelaide's Lament, from Guys and Dolls, every line is a car, right? Every lyric is a car on the train, and the train's going across this way. So if you're sitting in your car and you don't understand a train car, you go like this, and you start looking at the train car that's 20 cars down the road, and what happens when you turn back to the intersection? You've missed 20 cars. And so the analogy is a lyric has to be understood orally the same way you might look at a fleeting train car. Can you see all the cars that go by and not get distracted by a lyric you didn't understand? And so you stop listening to the song you're hearing for the first time because all you're thinking about is, what was that lyric and why did that not sound right, or that didn't make sense? That's not what we want to have as a writer, as a lyricist. The other thing I think that Jerry Herman said when he talked to Frank Lesser was, you got to have a caboose. Every train has a caboose. I guess we're stuck on trains today, but you got to have a caboose. Every song has to have a finale, a finish, a coda, something that wraps it all up. The train car analogy is important because oftentimes, and this is true of a lot of people, a lot of writers, is they will put the weak syllable on a strong beat and a strong syllable on the weak beat. So, for example, I often say don't put the emphasis on the wrong syllable because you want the emphasis on the correct syllable. So what that means for your composer, if you're working separately, or in my case, I'm writing lyrics that I'm already thinking about a melody because I'm going to write that melody myself, you want the strong syllable on a strong beat at the start of a phrase, not the weaker beat. The other example I gave this colleague of mine who was very interested in this because, I mean, this is what they're prepping the show for the next stage. They're taking it down to Orlando, Florida for the Christmas season. And I said to him, you know, there's another great story. I've mentioned this before, maybe on here, maybe on TikTok. And that is Oscar Hammerstein flying low. I don't know if it was a blimp or a plane, but in any case, someone was flying over the top of the Statue of Liberty. This is beginning commercial flight, beginning to be able to get, you know, over the top of the Statue of Liberty. And at the top of the Statue of Liberty, there's all this carved hair and carved, you know, crown, stuff you wouldn't see from below. And someone said to Oscar Hammerstein II, well, why would they put all that work into that crown and on the top of her head? No one's ever going to see it. And Hammerstein said to her, because the sculptor would know. The sculptor would see it. And the same is true for the intricacies of art, lyrics, painting, all the structural things that, you know, we don't see. It's kind of like the inside of a beautiful building, all the you know, the skeleton, the studs of the wall that keep the building in place. So good lyric writing is often like the top of the Statue of Liberty, is that you don't see it, but the writer knows it's there, and you as a listener can appreciate the high quality of what you're listening to, even if you don't necessarily want to dissect it or understand all of it. You don't need to. You're there to enjoy it. So I've always loved that story. And I think that's all I have for now. And I'm running 14 minutes now. So anyway, you're welcome. Thank you all so much. Please send me thoughts, comments, concerns, questions. Broadway is back, but it's still touch and go. A colleague of mine was over at To Kill a Mockingbird, and I was so excited to see that. And they've been shut down because Greg Kinnear was in it, I think, got COVID. Anyway, it's still whack-a-mole. It's still very precarious. And while I try to find the time to write and the time to do my own creative work, I'm also trying to do the teaching and the recordings and fill out the external deadlines that keep me afloat. So thank you all. Speaking of which, thank you all so much. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about these examples of the creative process, and sort of, I don't want to sound too litigious, or it's not a one-to-one ratio to each artist. We're all different, but there are certain things we can agree on in terms of the work ethic and the uh, hopefully striving for the goal of doing great work. So, all right, have a good night, everyone. Okay, bye.